Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. I hope you had a fantastic holiday season. For my family, we unfortunately got sick over Christmas, so we were sick the whole Christmas, but by New Year we were better. While I always miss you when I take time off, it actually worked out nicely because there's no way I could have filmed videos when we were that sick. But we're moving forward now. We're feeling better. I'm so happy to be back here with you. So today I want to talk to you about a quilt along that I'm hosting that's coming up. For quite a few years now, I have hosted a Scrappy Sampler, and traditionally we've started the day after Christmas. This year I was waiting to start in January, which worked out for me. So let me show you what I have. This year I have one size. This is the rough schematic of what the quilt will look like. Now this is always historically and will continue to be a mystery quilt along. You won't know what the blocks look like and you won't know exactly what the sampler looks like until we finish. Now this is a throw size quilt. This measures 60 inches across this way and 64 inches this way. It has a variety of sizes of blocks you could see here by the lines that are drawn. So this uses 10 12-inch blocks, 8 9-inch blocks, and 16 6-inch blocks. And then it has these little pieces that are already in, which help make our different size blocks fit together really nicely. Now, what's a little bit different about this quilt along that if you haven't participated or seen my quilt alongs before, you might not know this, is that I don't give fabric requirements for this. This is meant to use up scraps that you have and kind of like anything goes. And also, while I will be giving block patterns for every single space in the quilt to make it unique, it has 34 unique blocks in it, you can pick and choose to make the blocks that you want. So if you don't particularly like a block, or if you think a block is too far out of your skill range, you can skip that block and either make two of a different one or go find a pattern for a block somewhere else that's the size that you need and plug it in. And the nature of that kind of makes it impossible to give a fabric requirement. So when I make mine, I'll mix whites and creams. For my background, I will use what I have in my scrap basket to use it up. That's why I designed this, to just use what we have laying around in our sewing spaces. If, however, you don't have scraps and you want to participate, the best thing I can say is to choose a bundle to start with. In general, fat quarters work the best. I always get asked about layer cakes or jelly rolls, but when we're cutting 12-inch blocks, you can't really cut the pieces that you need always from a layer cake. So sometimes that may work out, and sometimes that might not be the best use of fabric. So my best recommendation is, if you want to purchase fabric for this, you buy a fat quarter bundle, but then you also know that if you use up what you have, you need to be able to add to it. I think the best thing to do is just start with a bundle, and then if you use that all up, add in some basics or some solids or more fabrics that you can get again from that bundle to keep building your quilt. And again, this quilt isn't too big. It's only 60 by 64. In the past, I've done a variety of sizes, and I always made the largest size, but this time we're going with just a throw size. And if you want to use one continuous background, buy a few yards of it. And then if you need to buy more, make sure you know the exact white or background color that you use. So if you need to get more, you can get more. Now, as I mentioned, this quilt has a variety of block sizes in it, which makes it fun and keeps it interesting as you're going and making these blocks. The total amount of blocks in this quilt is 34. Plus, I'm not counting these little half square triangles and 4 patches and quarter square triangles, but 34 larger blocks. And what we're going to do is 2 blocks a week. The quilt along is going to start on January 16th. That first day, I'll release the instructions for all of these little bits, plus 1 of the mystery blocks. And then continuing on from there, it'll be 2 mystery blocks a week until we finish. And then as we go, we're going to be kind of making them in order. So as we go, once we finish a row, I'll release the assembly instructions for that row. So if you want to assemble the rows as we make them, it'll be a little bit easier when we come to the end, and you'll just have to sew your rows together instead of working with all your separate blocks and sewing them together. I always have a blast with this quilt along. If you're new to quilting and you want to learn, I find that a sampler is one of the best ways to do that. You get a large variety of experience making different types of blocks without committing to make, 12 to 20 to 50 of the exact same block. So samplers are really, really great for skill building. And when I design these sampler quilts, I really keep that in mind. I try to do a wide variety of blocks and techniques so that you can be practicing all different components of quilting along the way. Now, in the past, I've done a few different ones. I've done multiple blue and whites. I've also done a red and white, and then I did two with a lot of different colors. One was like a 30s reproduction quilt, and the other was, I think I used like art gallery fabrics, and I just mashed a bunch of lines together and I added some solids. So really, you can do anything that you want in terms of color here. For me, again, I'm gonna go with blues and white. Something about blues and whites and this time of the year, I love that combination, and I love making it now. And that's what I'm really feeling that I want to embark on this quilting journey with. So that's what I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna use my scraps and fabric that I already have here that are blues and whites, and then combine them. I'm also going to be doing a scrappy background. So just whatever I have that goes with the blues, or whatever I'm feeling pulled towards that day when I cut the fabrics out, that's what I'm going to use. I feel like it's best not to overthink this here. If you pick a color scheme and then you mix and match that color scheme as you go, it's gonna turn out great. If you have a hard time picking a color scheme, try a two color like I'm doing. This one behind me is a red and white two color. I had a fantastic time making that. There's all different reds in here from my scraps. It was great. And that can work in this too. So if you're having trouble picking a palette, try sticking with a two color quilt. I feel like limiting the colors that you put in your quilts really can just release the stress of choosing a palette, and it just gives you a nice break from that. Now, I often make my quilts with lots of colors in them, but whenever I do the two color or three color, like a very limited palette, it's always really satisfying. So if you haven't tried that before, I'd recommend giving that a try too. Now, this quilt along will be completely free during the time that we are sewing it. So every week during the quilt along, I'll release the videos that go with the patterns. In the description of the videos, there will be a link to download the PDF. And during the quilt along, the pattern will stay free. Once the quilt along is over, I'll take all the PDFs that we used during this quilt along and convert them into a paid pattern, and they will no longer be available for free. Now, the block videos will stay on my channel forever. It's just that you won't be able to download those PDFs for free after the quilt along has concluded. If you have any questions on this quilt along, please just let me know in the comments. And thank you for being here with me today. I can't wait to sew with you this coming year. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for following along.